Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Soul Land 2 Part 143 based on novel. So let's start. Nangong WN stared at him doubtfully and said, "Are you getting old? How are you feeling cold? Why don't I feel cold?" Boom. There was no warning at all as Nangong Wan's body suddenly froze, and he was blasted forward like a cannonball. He crashed into 4 or 5 relatively weaker evil soul masters as he flew and sent them flying away, every single one of them crying out in pain as blood spewed from their mouths. Their bodies were all twisted from the collision, and they didn't seem like they could live through that. Second brother. Both the third elder and the fourth elder were astonished. The change happened too abruptly. A blurry green shadow appeared almost instantly beside the third elder, and an incredibly sharp aura descended upon him. The third elder was startled, caught off guard. He believed himself strong, but his enemy's soul power undulations suppressed him so much that he found it hard to breathe. He clapped his hands subconsciously as he activated his Class 9 protective soul barrier and his invincible barrier at the same time. Intense explosions could be heard as his Class 9 protective soul barrier was torn apart. Golden light flickered continuously on his invincible barrier, and it seemed like it was cracking apart. An invincible barrier's greatest problem was that it could only be crafted at Class 7. It was more suitable for relatively weaker soul masters, and it was most effective at that standard. However, it was a lot less effective for and against titled Doluor. The green shadow gradually materialized. It was Elder Song. Elder Song broke through the third elder's external defenses with a single strike. Her attacks were lightning quick as countless green shadows engulfed him. Blinding golden flames lit up the sky on the other side. Deep booming phoenix calls were heard as the fourth elder was enveloped in a sphere of radiant flames. His netherworld sword flew up and down, but he could barely hold on as he was beaten back continuously. Silhouettes appeared at the same time all around them, and they swiftly launched an assault against the evil soul masters, who were so startled that they froze instinctively. These people had appeared all too suddenly. 6 or 7 evil soul masters were heavily injured from their attacks as soon as they appeared, and in addition to Nangong WN, who was sent flying away, a third of the evil soul master's strength was shaved off. Shrek Academy was the one responsible for this sudden ambush. According to Hua Yuhao's plan, this battle had to be fought and ended as quickly as possible. Hua Yuhao was escorting his companions out when he returned to his tent before this. The Holy Ghost Church's supreme leader led 6 consecrates to the command tent, so these evil soul masters' overall strength was a lot weaker. How could Hua Yuhao let go of such an opportunity? The Heavenly Soul Empire's assault was just a feint. They had no intention of clashing head-on with the Sun Moon Empire's soul tool forts, and their attack happened at the time they had agreed on. To ensure that everything would be perfect, Hua Yuhao told Princess Wei Na that there were 2 key points to tonight's operation. First, they had to agree on a time, and secondly, the Heavenly Soul Empire had to wait until the Sun Moon Empire was in chaos and disarray from the explosion. The Heavenly Soul Empire was only to launch their feint attack when both things happened. If the explosion didn't occur, then the feint was to be cancelled. The plan was more successful than they had expected. The Heavenly Soul Empire were overjoyed when they saw such a powerful explosion going off in the Sun Moon Empire's camp, and several senior officers even believed that the Heavenly Soul Empire should take this chance to launch an all-out offensive. However, this idea was rejected by the other higher-ups, with Wei Na at the helm. The Heavenly Soul Empire wouldn't launch an offensive like that unless they had absolute confidence, because they couldn't afford to sustain the losses. The army outside Heavenly Spirit City was the last of what the Heavenly Soul Empire could muster, and if they lost this strength, then the Heavenly Soul Empire wouldn't be able to recover. Hua Yuhao had used imitation to bring everyone out of his tent, and with cover from imitation and his formidable spiritual power, not even powerful titled Doluor like the third elder and the fourth elder realized what was happening. Of course, for that to happen, Nangong WN had to do what he needed to do. He had secretly released his soul power when they were conversing and created a barrier behind them, and trying as much as possible to block off their sense of their surroundings, allowing Shrek Academy to ambush them like that when they made their move. What was Hua Yuhao doing? He had an important task. Many of the Sun Moon Empire's senior officials and some of the Holy Ghost Church's most powerful individuals were gathered at the command tent, which their battle was happening not far from. Their plan would have to be abandoned prematurely if the supreme leader came to rescue his companions, if he realized that something was wrong. Furthermore, their lives would be in danger. Therefore, Hua Yuhao went to the command tent to place a spiritual barrier outside it, and cut off any soul power undulations and sound from the outside world. Even Elder Song and Yang Shaozhe would have trouble doing this, because they had to accomplish that task with soul power, and soul power undulations were too easily discovered. Hua Yuhao could rely on his formidable spiritual power, and with imitation, his spiritual interference domain, and his immensely powerful control over his spiritual power, finishing this task was a lot easier. Hua Yuhao had seemed to leave quietly and casually, but he had already used his full strength. He had left a hidden spiritual avatar at the battlefield, and used imitation through his spiritual avatar to conceal everyone from Shrek. On the other side, he had tried his best to form the strongest spiritual barrier that he could conjure so that he could completely separate the commander's tent from the outside world, just so Zhongli Wu wouldn't discover what was happening here. Hua Yuhao was clear that he couldn't do this for long, because if he wanted to cut off sound and soul power undulations, he would have to cut off everything, and it would be relatively quiet inside the command tent. Zhongli Wu probably wouldn't realize what was happening for a short period of time, but that was hard to say if a longer time passed. The third elder and the fourth elder were suppressed in an instant when Shrek launched an all-out attack. After all, they were facing two transcendent Doluo, and that was especially true when Elder Song was a rank 97 transcendent Doluo. It wasn't hard to imagine her fighting strength with her incredible speed. But evil soul masters did have quite an advantage compared to other soul masters of the same rank. The third elder and the fourth elder weren't completely run over even though they were at an absolute disadvantage. A barrier that resembled a web of lightning appeared around the third elder and blocked Elder Song's relentless assault. It was a soul tool he had used to protect himself. The third elder's title was Dark Lightning, the Dark Lightning Doluo, and he was a soul engineer at the same time. He had fused his martial soul with a soul tool that he had created himself, and possessed a set of unique fighting abilities. He amplified the power of his soul skills with soul tools, and all his attacks possessed the force of dark lightning. This dark lightning possessed the formidable element of lightning along with a thread of evil, an evil that could only be absorbed from a pile of dead people. The third elder's powers became stronger when there were more dead people around. The Annihilation Storm had just killed many soul engineers and soldiers in the explosion, and all that dark and evil aura wasn't far from this place. The third elder could channel some of that, and he used his full strength as he unleashed his dark lightning and released all sorts of protective soul tools. Only then could he barely protect his life under Elder Song's swift and ferocious onslaught. But the third elder was feeling terribly bitter. It didn't take long before Elder Song had damaged one of his 3 strongest soul tools, while the other 2 tools also had problems to varied extents under Elder Song's formidable attacks. These losses by themselves gave him a heartache. The fourth elder's situation was even worse than the third elder. The fourth elder's title was Netherworld, the Netherworld Doluo, and his martial soul was the Netherworld Sword. Back then, he had teamed up with the third elder and forced Hua Yuhao to burn his spiritual sea to escape. But he was now facing the dean of Shrek Academy's martial soul department, the Dragon Emperor Doluo Mu Ien's eldest disciple, and the next heir to the Sea God's Pavilion. Yang Shaozhe was 1 rank beneath Elder Song in terms of cultivation, but his potential was a lot greater. Back then, Mu Ien had hopes that he could become an ultimate Doluo, since only ultimate Doluo were worthy of becoming master of the Sea God's Pavilion. Yang Shaozhe's martial soul, the Radiant Phoenix, gave him the title of Radiant Phoenix Doluo. His Radiant Phoenix was a fusion between light and fire, just like Bei Bei's Radiant Holy Dragon was a fusion between light and lightning. Even though he didn't have a pure ultimate martial soul, the combination of the elements of light and fire was a fantastic counter to the Netherworld Doluo's abilities. There was an enormous gap between their cultivations at the same time. The Netherworld Doluo was already bleeding all over his face, and he had sustained relatively severe injuries as he fought for his life. He didn't hesitate to burn his soul power, and he channeled his soul core to the highest possible level before he could even defend himself against Yang Shaozhe's attacks. However, Even if he could stay alive in the end, he would be so heavily injured that his cultivation would probably regress. Shrek Academy had gained an absolute advantage in these two battles, while the other battles weren't considered too difficult. The reason for that was because Shrek had, besides two transcendent Doluor, a savage beast. The Ice Bear King, Little Bai, was the last to make his move, because he needed time to charge up his attack. When he walked out from Hua Yuhao's imitation, a formidable blizzard howled out and wreaked havoc. Under his deliberate control, the blizzard was maintained only around the evil soul masters, and barreled towards them. Back then, he had brought his blizzard down from the sky and held back the entire Fire Phoenix Soul Engineer Legion. He was now unleashing it from the ground, and its force was much more terrifying. However, Hua Yuhao was afraid that the blizzard would be too strong, and the Holy Ghost Church's supreme leader would be startled. Therefore, he had asked Little Bai to reduce his blizzard's strength. Otherwise, the blizzard would have been even more frightening. Little Bai almost suppressed the rest of the evil soul masters all by himself. The gap in their cultivations and the frightening power of ultimate ice meant that those evil soul masters, who were only soul Doluor at best, could only fight to protect their lives. Shrek Academy's team had appeared way too suddenly. The evil soul masters didn't expect, even in their wildest dreams, that so many enemies would appear in the core areas of the Sun Moon Empire's camp, and that their enemies would be so powerful. They were caught off guard from the get-go. Tang Ya was possibly the calmest out of all the evil soul masters. She reacted immediately after Nangong Wan was sent hurtling away. Dark blue light flickered on her body and 8 soul rings swiftly appeared around her. She actually had 7 black rings and 1 red ring. Nobody knew how the Holy Ghost Church had helped her soul rings evolve like that. Dark blue silver vines immediately burst through the air one after another as they whipped towards Elder Song in an attempt to help the third elder deal with her. But how powerful was Elder Song? Her green shadow godly eagle was wind type, and Tang Ya's dark blue silver vines were sliced into pieces by formless wind blades before they came too close to her. Tang Ya couldn't possibly hurt her even if Elder Song wasn't targeting her. Just as Tang Ya was about to unleash her most powerful soul skill, she suddenly saw a person appear in front of her. This person's entire body flickered with streaks of lightning, a man who was full of passion and emotion. She was just about to unleash an attack at full strength, but for some reason, she froze when she saw this man, and didn't unleash her next soul skill. Xiao. Bei Bei's voice trembled, sounding like a whimper. He couldn't control his emotions at all when he saw Tang Ya. Tang Ya was still as beautiful as ever, but she didn't have her liveliness and her energy from before, and seemed like a statue, like the walking dead. Hua Yuhao had already seen what Tang Ya was like, but he didn't dare tell Bei Bei, because he was afraid that Bei Bei would be sad. Bei Bei could now feel his heart knotting up painfully as he saw what Tang Ya was like. Xiao Ya, I'm Bei Bei. Do you remember me? Tears flowed down Bei Bei's cheeks uncontrollably, and even though he was releasing his martial soul, he didn't have any will to fight at all. His entire body was just quivering before her. Tears didn't come easy from a real man. Ever since Xiao Ya had gone missing, Bei Bei had been going through agonizing torture in his heart. He believed that it was his fault for not taking care of Xiao Ya that she had ended up in the Holy Ghost Church's hands. The last time they met was on the competition stage. When Tang Ya used her blue-silver tyrant spear and impaled him, he had really wanted to just let go and liberate himself. He was absolutely willing, even if he had to die in Tang Ya's embrace. This was the second time that they had met after that time, now among endless soldiers, and in the darkness of the night. Bei Bei stared at Tang Ya, who was like a zombie, and he couldn't control his emotions at all. Tang Ya stared at Bei Bei, who had tears covering his entire face. She seemed a little frozen as well, but her hand was still slowly rising in Bei Bei's direction. Her eyes suddenly became cold in the next moment, and countless dark blue shadows lunged right at Bei Bei. Bei Bei just stood there, motionless. He still didn't believe that Tang Ya would harm him, even at a time like this. "What are you doing, Bei Bei?" Shu Sancha shouted in shock, and a golden light appeared in front of him in the next moment. An enormous shield protected Bei Bei behind it, blocking all the blue shadows going right for him. Bei Bei's body trembled as he snapped around at Shu Sanxia, who was rushing to his side. "Don't interfere, Sanxia. I don't believe Xiao Ya will harm me," Shu Sanxia retorted angrily. "Are you insane? Can you not see that she has been brainwashed, and her mind is being controlled? We have to leave as quickly as possible. Little junior brother cannot keep that up for too long. What kind of romantic game are you playing at now? If you want to move Xiao Ya and let her recover, you have to wait for when everyone has returned safely. Why are you so muddled? Are you trying to kill everyone?" Shu Sanxia didn't stop as he hollered furiously at Bei Bei. His Xuanwu shield became a shield wall as he blocked all the area attacks from Tang Ya's dark blue-silver grass. Even though Tang Ya was already an 8-ringed soul Doluor, Shu Sanxi's strength had increased exponentially ever since he had fused with his spirit. His golden tortoise was hovering beside him, and it released circles of golden light one after another that greatly boosted his Xuanwu shield. Bei Bei was momentarily stunned after Shu Sanxia berated him. However, some clarity finally returned to his eyes as he said, "I'm sorry, I was wrong." He swiftly came out from behind Shu Sanxi's shield as he spoke, and he pounced right at Tang Ya amidst flickering golden lightning, unleashing his radiant holy dragon. Bei Bei used Thunderous Dragon Claw, his first soul skill, and slashed at Tang Ya as he used Vigorous Thunderbolt, his second soul skill, at the same time. Thousands of streaks of lightning permeated the skies as they sliced away the dark blue-silver grass in the air. An elegant white stallion flickering with golden light appeared before Bei Bei, and dragon scales immediately covered Bei Bei's body. It was Bei Bei's spirit, his heavenly dragon horse. Back then, Bei Bei's blue lightning tyrant dragon had officially evolved into a radiant holy dragon after he fused with the heavenly dragon horse. Bei Bei's aura now swelled as his spirit appeared. Even though he wasn't using his martial soul true body, his fighting strength was near that standard with the heavenly dragon horse's support. Tang Ya's eyes were ice-cold from the beginning to the end. She raised her hands and made a grab with her left hand in the air as her blue-silver tyrant spear gradually took form. She pushed out with her right hand towards Bei Bei, and an enormous bluish-black web opened up. It blocked his thunderous dragon claw before it reached for him. The web was becoming larger and larger as it flew, and it could hold its own against Bei Bei's radiant lightning. Bei Bei stomped his right foot heavily on the ground as the lightning on his body flourished. That was his third soul skill, Thunderous Fury. Golden circles of light were released beneath his feet in the next moment. He used Dragon Emperor's Realm Quake, and his aura rose incredibly quickly to an extremely fearsome level. This was the reason why Bei Bei didn't use his martial soul true body. His fighting strength would be even stronger if he was in his martial soul true body, but his Dragon Emperor's Realm Quake could only be used at its full strength with Dragon Emperor Demonic Rupture. His martial soul true body didn't have such delicate control, and at the bottom of it all, he was still afraid that he would hurt Tang Ya. A pair of enormous dragon claws rose as they slashed at the enormous web. The large web dropped down and closed up as it trapped him inside. Bei Bei fixed his gaze as he shouted, and tore to his sides savagely. He realized as he was tearing that the web was both extremely viscous and tough at the same time, and he couldn't tear open this web even with his strength. Furthermore, there were many bluish-black spikes on this web, which released extremely pure energies of darkness that attempted to worm their way into his body. Bei Bei would have been injured as he slashed against those spikes if not for his radiant holy dragon scales protecting him. But Bei Bei was a powerful soul sage, after all. With his heavenly dragon horse supporting him, he used Dragon Emperor Demonic Rupture as blinding golden light shot into the air. Intense energies of light gave way to pure power as the large web was torn in two. As he tossed those two pieces away, they were thrown towards two evil soul masters in the distance. However, Bei Bei could clearly feel his scalp going numb in this moment. Tang Ya's blue-silver tyrant spear had taken form, and the tip of the spear was pointed right at him. She was in a stance like she was going to throw it. In this moment, Tang Ya was the only person that Bei Bei could see. He could still vividly remember, back on the competition stage, Tang Ya had used her blue-silver tyrant spear to impale him. He didn't dodge last time, and he had used his passionate and warm blood to meet Tang Ya's attack. He wanted Tang Ya to feel the love that he had for her in his blood. Back then, Bei Bei felt that Tang Ya seemed to recover part of her memory from his repeated calls. They were almost in the exact same situation in this moment. Many emotions surfaced in Bei Bei's mind as he faced her blue-silver tyrant spear once more. Tang Ya clutched her blue-silver tyrant spear as she stared at the man who had just torn apart her spiderweb binding. She seemed to be momentarily stunned, and her ice-cold eyes flowed with a tinge of hesitation. Shu Sanxia arrived beside Bei Bei with a single stride. He wasn't afraid of her blue-silver tyrant spear, and his Xuanwu shield was at the ready. Sanxia. Bei Bei suddenly growled. What? Shu Sanxia turned around at him. Bei Bei stared at him deeply and said, "Leave this to me. Trust me." Shu Sanxia quivered as he said solemnly, "Bei Bei." Bei Bei lowered his voice. "Trust me." Shu Sanxia took a deep breath. He held on to his golden Xuanwu shield as he took a step back. However, he didn't leave the battle. The Ice Bear King, Little Bai, was controlling the entire battlefield. Shrek Academy's warriors had the absolute upper hand even though they were few in number. The most intimidating ones from the Tang sect were Ji Juechen and Yi Gaiyi. Ji Juechen's judgment sword unleashed formidable sword intent, and every swing of his sword was a nightmare for those evil soul masters. Yi Gaiyi's situation was even better. Her martial soul was a holy angel, while her type wasn't light. Instead, her martial soul was a holy type martial soul. Her aura would be strengthened every time she killed an evil soul master, and here, she immediately surpassed the strength of a normal soul sage. Yi Gaiyi's martial soul was one of the strongest ones within the entire Tang sect. In terms of just martial souls, her martial soul probably surpassed either of Hue Yuhao's. The element of holiness contained within a holy angel was extremely rare, and was born to fight against evil. A holy angel would be strengthened every time it killed something evil. Yi Gaiyi had just slaughtered an evil soul emperor, dissipating his martial soul into dust and nothingness. What she gained from this kill was equivalent to cultivating for 3 months by herself. It wasn't easy to find something evil from day to day, but the Holy Ghost Church was a most suitable opponent for Yi Gaiyi to strengthen herself with. Furthermore, almost every single evil soul master's abilities would be countered before her holy angel. The element of light could counter evil, but it wasn't as strong. Evil soul masters had been investigating how to deal with the element of light for many years, and they had a set of their own methods. However, there wasn't much they could do against the element of holiness. Holiness was a natural counter to them, and holiness always trumped evil, so it was a one-sided affair. The reason why the element of holiness was so powerful was that it had almost no natural enemies, while it could counter all evil and darkness. An avenging spirit flew in front of Yi Gaiyi. If she were an ordinary soul emperor, she would have to be very cautious when facing an evil soul master. If she wasn't cautious enough, her spiritual sea might be affected. However, against Yi Gaiyi, she only shone with golden light before the avenging spirit screamed tragically and vanished. The power of purification even caused the avenging spirit to be sucked into Yi Gaiyi's body to replenish her and increase her cultivation. As a result, Yi Gaiyi's fighting strength was fully unleashed as she fought under the Ice Bear King's protection. She was the nightmare of every evil soul master. Hue Yuhao had risked everything to save her before because she could naturally curb evil soul masters. As Yi Gaiyi's abilities increased, her deterrence against evil soul masters grew stronger, too. Yi Gaiyi was already close to becoming a soul sage. After this fight, she was confident that she could make a breakthrough to become a soul sage. When that happened, her holy angel would have 4 wings, and her overall abilities would greatly increase. She wouldn't be afraid even against an evil soul Doluo. Nan Chocho followed beside Yi Gaiyi, coordinating with her. Yi Gaiyi's holy angel was the most effective against evil soul masters, while Nan Chocho was using her Ruby Dragon's annihilation abilities to protect her, enabling Yi Gaiyi's offensive power to be unleashed to the limit. It wasn't just Nan Chocho. Xiao Xiao was also protecting Yi Gaiyi. Her 3 lives Soul Crush Cauldron was used as a control-type martial soul to isolate Yi Gaiyi from their enemies. This prevented too many enemies from appearing directly in front of her, allowing Yi Gaiyi to better unleash her abilities. Apart from the 3 of them, everyone else also demonstrated their powers. Jiang Nanan's abilities had greatly increased ever since she had fused with the ruby soft tendon python spirit. Right now, a python over 3 meters long ran riot on the battlefield. The strangest part of it was that it possessed the abilities that Jiang Nannan had. Just this alone was enough to make it as strong as Shu Sanxi's golden tortoise. Jiang Nannan had already transformed into her martial soul true body at this moment, but it wasn't her softbone rabbit. Rather, she had fused her true body into her ruby soft tendon python, increasing her spirit's abilities greatly. She relied on the size of her python to disrupt proceedings on the battlefield, and the evil soul masters were unable to gather. Xiao Wei. Bei Bei shouted at Tang Ya, who had already raised her blue-silver tyrant spear. Tang Ya's body shook. She was already hesitating a little. When she heard Bei Bei's call, her actions slowed even further. Bei Bei removed his Dragon Emperor's realm quake and slowly walked towards Tang Ya. With every step he took, his body dimmed slightly. After 3 steps, his dragon scales had completely disappeared, and his martial soul had even been retracted. He revealed his true appearance. Xiao Ya, I'm Bei Bei. Do you remember me? Bei Bei walked towards Tang Ya. Shu Sanxia held his golden Xuanwu shield tightly, and suddenly swept his hand across his body. His shield flew out and struck a few evil soul emperors that were charging over. He was worried about Bei Bei. However, he couldn't stop him at this moment. From that earlier moment, he had already seen the determined look in Bei Bei's eyes. Even though he was very close to Bei Bei, it was his first time seeing such a look in his eyes. He knew that Bei Bei had already made up his mind. No matter what, he had to try. As a brother, he couldn't stop him. If he were in such a situation with Jiang Nannan, he would also do the same thing. Bei Bei, come on. Shu Sanxia shouted silently, and focused his gaze on Tang Ya. Once something went wrong, he would dash in to save Bei Bei immediately. Tang Ya was a little dazed as she stood there. There was still a large bunch of dark blue-silver grass dancing around her feet. However, they didn't attack. The sharp blue-silver tyrant spear flashed with a dark blue light. Its dominant aura made it felt like it could pierce through the sky. However, she didn't thrust it toward Bei Bei. Bei Bei was still walking toward her. His gaze became even gentler, and there wasn't even a streak of soul power undulations coming from him. Xiao Ya, I won't do anything to you. How can I possibly hurt you? You are my Xiao Ya, and you'll always be. If you want to attack, then kill me. I'm willing even if my blood stains your body. Don't come over. Tang Ya suddenly shouted. This was also her first time speaking on this battlefield. Her voice was no longer as cold and indifferent as it was before. Rather, she sounded a little afraid and panicky. After hearing her speak, Shu Sanxia heaved a sigh of relief. Tang Ya's emotions were roused after seeing Bei Bei. This meant that he was still in her memory. Bei Bei didn't listen to Tang Ya, and continued to walk forward. He wasn't very far from Tang Ya to begin with, and now, he was almost in front of her. Don't come over. Tang Ya's voice turned a little sharper. Her ice-cold eyes were filled with indecision. Xiao Ya, I'm Bei Bei. Bei Bei continued to walk forward. He was calling Tang Ya's name as if he were calling his own wife. Finally, he was in front of her. She didn't move her spear. It was even shaking in her grip. Bei Bei was now right in front of the spear, but he didn't stop. He walked directly into the spear, and the tip of the spear pierced his shoulder. There was a trace of red on the tip of the spear, which spread along the dark patterns on it. As Tang Ya's cultivation increased, the spear was able to absorb blood. As it absorbed blood, it also fused the dark poison elements inside it into the enemy's blood. Bei Bei turned pale, but his gaze was still as gentle as ever. Xiao Ya, I'm Bei Bei. Seeing that the tip of her spear had pierced Bei Bei's shoulder, Tang Ya was stunned, and just looked at him in a daze. It was like she was looking at some unbelievable thing. Bei Bei moved another inch forward. Immediately, the spear pierced deeper into him. From the start until the end, Bei Bei didn't reveal a painful look on his face. There was only a gentle look throughout. Xiao Ya, I'm Bei Bei. Bei Bei continued to call softly. Ah. Tang Yue started to shout frantically, and furiously let go of the spear in her hand. Without her soul power, her spear immediately dissipated, and turned into streaks of dark blue light that disappeared into the air. The blue-silver grass around Tang Yue also instantly disappeared. Her face was very pale, and her body started to shake tremendously. Her hands were on her head. My head hurts. It hurts so much. Bei Bei resisted the pain in his shoulder and rushed forward, hugging Tang Yue. Even though Tang Yue's body was ice-cold right now, and was filled with an intense aura of darkness, when Bei Bei hugged her, tears flowed from her eyes uncontrollably. How many years had it been? Ever since Tang Yue went missing, it had been many years. He was finally able to hold her in his arms again. Xiao Yue, you don't know how blissful I feel right now. No matter what price I have to pay, I'll treat you. Seeing that Bei Bei had succeeded, Shu Sanxia was delighted. He charged towards Bei Bei and whispered, "All right, let's go quickly, so that we can ask little Junior to leave." Bei Bei twisted to look at him and nodded quickly. After that, he carried Tang Yue away and fled towards the masquerade Doluor's tent. The door to the spectral demiplane was already open. The command tent of the Sun Moon Empire. As the imperial tutor and leader of the Holy Ghost Church, Zhongli Wu sat in the main seat. Even Lin Hai was only sitting by his side. A large number of orders had already been passed down. The entire base was busy with this fight. Zhongli Wu was very grim. Apart from Lin Hai, there were also many other commanders from the Sun Moon Empire inside the tent. As Zhongli Wu and the 6 consecrated from the Holy Ghost Church's worship hall were inside the tent, they were all afraid. Why is no one reporting after so long? What's with your soldiers? Zhongli Wu asked Lin Hai. Lin Hai furrowed his brow and said, "This shouldn't be happening. It's been some time. The messengers should be constantly reporting information." After a series of orders were passed down earlier, the command tent had quieted down. They had been waiting for some time already, but no further messengers had arrived. How was the fight continuing on without any commands? Oh! Zhongli Wu's expression suddenly changed. He stood up immediately. Things aren't right. Why is it so quiet? Even if the command tent can isolate noise quite well, there should be some movement outside. Let's go out and take a look. As he spoke, he headed out. Of course no messengers came. This was because the masquerade Doluor was outside. After setting up the spiritual barrier, Huo Yuhao had already stopped 3 waves of messengers. With the spiritual barrier isolating all noises from outside, those 3 waves of messengers were tricked into a dark corner beside the command tent through Huo Yuhao's spiritual interference domain. They were also unconscious. The curtains of the tent were pulled open, and Zhongli Wu was the first to walk out. Seeing that Zhongli Wu had come out, Huo Yuhao was alarmed. Things hadn't finished on the other side, not everyone had retreated yet. Huo Yuhao knew that they were fighting for time right now. Every second would make his teammates safer. Bei Bei had just picked up Xiao Yue, and was about to retreat towards his tent. Huo Yuhao's spiritual detection engulfed the entire battlefield. He knew everything that was happening. Time. Huo Yuhao suddenly thought of something, and quickly rushed forward 2 steps. He screamed in panic, "Sect leader, things aren't going well. We've been ambushed by people from Shrek Academy." Although he was screaming, he was blocking Zhongli Wu's path. What? After walking out of the tent, Zhongli Wu immediately sensed something amiss. What's with that weird soul power undulation in the air? Why did I not sense anything earlier? However, he couldn't be bothered with that at this moment. He hurriedly shouted, "All consecrated, follow me to deal with the enemy." However, a strong blizzard suddenly raged in at that moment. Under Huo Yuhao's command, the Ice Bear King had been suppressing his abilities all this while, and didn't unleash his blizzard at its full strength. But now, the area covered by the blizzard instantly expanded. Visibility was greatly reduced, preventing the sect leader and the consecrated of the Holy Ghost Church from seeing clearly. All sensing through soul power was reduced to its weakest because of this extremely powerful domain-type soul skill. Zhongli Wu shouted furiously and smacked his right hand forward. A ball of strong purple light was released from his palm. This purple light spread through the air, turning into dark purple balls. Wherever these balls passed, the snowflakes in the air would melt and disappear. He couldn't be bothered with the blizzard at all, and charged directly towards the battlefield. He was very confident in his abilities as a titled Doluor. On the other side, everyone from Shrek Academy also quickly fled as they saw Bei Bei carrying Xiao Ya away. Elder Song smacked her palm toward the third elder, critically hurting him, spitting out blood in the process. However, she couldn't be bothered to deal him a final, lethal blow before she turned into a streak of jade-green light that immediately flashed away, shooting straight towards Zhongli Wu. If no one stopped the oncoming Holy Ghost Church members, they wouldn't be able to flee. Yang Xiaozhe's sixth soul ring rose. The reason why he and Elder Song couldn't kill the third and fourth elders quickly was because they were suppressing their power. They couldn't risk generating strong soul power undulations that Zhongli Wu might discover. Hua Yuhao was able to isolate noise and soul power undulations, but the truth would still be exposed if the tremors in the ground were too strong. But at this moment, there was nothing for them to hide anymore. Yang Xiaozhe unleashed his full powers. A bright golden phoenix fluttered its wings and collided with the fourth elder. At the same time, it flew straight towards the oncoming evil soul masters, and forced the evil soul masters pestering the people from the Tang sect back. They naturally took this opportunity to charge straight back to Hua Yuhao's tent. Yang Xiaozhe followed Elder Song closely. After he fused into the back of the golden phoenix, he unleashed his martial soul true body. His ninth soul ring also shone. A sonorous and deafening phoenix scream rose. Yang Xiaozhe's phoenix true body grew incredibly in size, his wings extending more than 100 meters across. Strong phoenix flames rose before they shot towards the ground. Every one of these flames was shaped like a phoenix. The strong aura of light even caused Little Bai's blizzard to dissipate temporarily. The originally dark sky brightened up at this moment. A bright golden fire was burning, and the radiant phoenix in the sky was shining with an elegant radiance. This was Yang Xiaozhe's ninth soul skill, Phoenix Descent. It was his strongest soul skill. At this instant, he seemed to have completely transformed into a true god-beast phoenix. The strong light element suppressed Zhongli Wu and the six consecrated, stalling them slightly, just long enough for the flames to engulf them. Zhongli Wu and the others had charged out anxiously when they realized the pressing situation on the battlefield, whereas Yang Xiaozhe was warned by Hua Yuhao. He was already prepared, and didn't hesitate to unleash his strongest soul skill. Elder Song also shone with green light. She had turned into her green shadow godly eagle before Yang Xiaozhe had transformed. When the Phoenix Descent was unleashed, the godly eagle instantly flashed in the air. At that instant, even Hua Yuhao only saw a green light flashing by, followed by the appearance of a jade-green light. Right now, the green shadow godly eagle was no longer like a martial soul anymore. It was more like an artistic piece that had been carved from jade. The speed of the eagle reached its extreme as she reached Zhongli Wu. Zhongli Wu didn't have time to unleash his martial soul true body. As he had no choice, he could only defend with all his might. Under such a circumstance, Elder Song's abilities were unleashed to their greatest. Along with the fact that the evil soul masters had to resist the flames from the phoenix true body, all 7 of them were flung away as they were struck by Elder Song. It was Elder Song's ninth soul skill, Emerald Refinement. Zhongli Wu's cultivation was close to Elder Song's, but he was an evil soul master. If they were in a duel, Elder Song could only use her speed to fight him. She might not be his match. However, given the current situation, Zhongli Wu was still flung away, even though he wasn't hurt. Hua Yuhao let out a tragic scream within the flames before he disappeared. After all, the flames came from a transcendent Doluor. Its terrifying power could kill an ordinary titled Doluor. Everyone from the Tang sect took this opportunity to rush into Hua Yuhao's tent. They concealed themselves within the blizzard and made their way into Hua Yuhao's spectral demiplane. A white halo was suddenly released from the flames, mass enfeeblement. The surrounding space distorted from his spiritual interference domain. Zhongli Wu wanted to fly back, but he suddenly felt a wave of strong spiritual power striking him. He groaned in the air and his body shone with purple light. However, his body only shook, and he stopped. Yu Hao, leave. Yang Shaozhe ordered. Huo Yu Hao knew that he was helpless in a fight of this tier. He had hit Zhongli Wu with his strongest spiritual shock, but only felt a spiritual backlash. He didn't dare to stop, and quickly fled. At the same time, he said to Nangong Wan, who was playing dead, "The restrictions in your spiritual sea will disappear after 3 days. You don't have to do anything." Nangong Wan was playing dead after he was knocked away. To make it even more real, he even intentionally hurt himself, breaking a few of his bones. After hearing Huo Yu Hao's words, he couldn't do anything but believe. If he tried to probe further, he might expose himself. Huo Yu Hao called the Ice Bear King and quickly retreated into his tent. A beam of jade-green light shone behind them. They only felt that they became lighter before they rushed into the tent. "Quickly, go." Elder Song's voice came to them. Huo Yu Hao said, "No, Elder Song. Leave with Little Bai first. I'll wait for Dean Yang. I need to shut this door myself. If I leave, it could be exposed." Elder Song said, "Don't worry. You don't have to care about him. Shaozhe has a way of escaping. Let's leave first, quick." "What?" Huo Yu Hao was doubtful, but he couldn't suspect Elder Song's words. He didn't dare to stall any further, and quickly entered the door with Little Bai. Elder Song followed them. After entering the demiplane, Elder Song immediately said to Huo Yu Hao, "Shut the door." Dean Yang, Huo Yu Hao was shocked as he looked at Elder Song. "Are we not waiting for Dean Yang?" Elder Song smiled and replied, "Don't worry, Shaozhe really has a way of escaping. Do you really think it's so easy being the dean of the Martial Soul Department? He shares the same teacher as you. If he's not capable enough, how could he become the heir to the master of the Sea God's Pavilion?" Huo Yu Hao quickly shut the door. As the door shut, the entire demiplane was dissociated from the Doluor continent. At this moment, the evil soul masters couldn't find them no matter how strong they were. Of course, if Huo Yu Hao and the others wanted to return, they would still need to return to the base. However, it would only be him then. It would be much easier for him to flee in those circumstances. He didn't need to rush things now. It was better for things to settle down first. In the plan that Huo Yu Hao had set, Yang Shaozhe had volunteered to cover any retreat. Huo Yu Hao naturally knew how strong he was. Such an arrangement was naturally appropriate. However, things didn't proceed as smoothly as planned. After the explosion, the Holy Ghost Church's sect leader didn't send anyone to check on things. This was a surprise to Huo Yu Hao. He had underestimated how selfish evil soul masters were. The command tent was too close to the battlefield. The sect leader had still managed to discover an issue. It would be too dangerous for him to cover any retreat. Even if he wanted to, he didn't possess the ability to do so. He was even afraid that Nangong Wan would expose his disguise as the masquerade Doluor. However, it would be fine if everyone could retreat safely. However, who knew that Yang Shaozhe wouldn't choose to leave? The plan was almost perfect. The only flaw was that Yang Shaozhe didn't leave with them. Right now, Huo Yu Hao figured that Dean Yang must have some kind of trump card as he saw the smile on Elder Song's face. The blizzard disappeared, but the phoenix flames were still raging. The entire sky was illuminated by golden light. The Sun Moon Empire's flying soul engineers were quickly assembling in this direction. This was where the command tent was, at the core of the entire base. If things went wrong here, there would be great trouble. Yang Shaozhe's phoenix descent greatly suppressed Zhongli Wu and the 6 consecrated, and they weren't able to break free from his flames. Not only did these phoenix flames contain a pure aura of life, but they were also burning like flames of ultimate fire. To be caught within these phoenix flames was like being dragged into a quagmire. Although the evil soul masters were very strong, and there were even a few transcendent Doluor among them, they could only passively defend as they were suppressed by the flames. Yang Shaozhe controlled the flames immaculately, and didn't care how fast he was being drained. Whichever evil soul master tried to charge over was immediately struck by the flames he was controlling. "Yang Shaozhe, you're courting death." Zhongli Wu snorted coldly. He wasn't anxious anymore. His body flashed with purple light, and he allowed the flames to attack him. He stood there without moving. Yang Shaojia's overwhelming attack was aimed at a large area. Even if he were a transcendent Doluo, he would be greatly drained, yet he ignored all costs. Under such circumstances, he wouldn't be able to last long. Once he couldn't hold on anymore, he would be doomed. There were so many evil soul masters. Was it even possible they could not deal with a transcendent Doluo in a weakened state? The masquerade Doluo had disappeared within the flames. Zhongli Wu personally witnessed it. He felt extremely sorry. Every titled Doluo was an important asset to the Holy Ghost Church, even though the masquerade Doluo's cultivation was likely to remain stagnant. Furthermore, he didn't know how many losses his side had incurred. How were the second, third, and fourth elders? Don't tell me they're dead too. Impossible. From that earlier aura, there seemed to only be 3 transcendent Doluo from Shrek Academy. How could they kill 4 of our titled Doluo, although there's only 3 of them? They even did it so quickly. Zhongli Wu had already calmed down as he basked in the flames. However, he couldn't understand why Shrek Academy would suddenly attack. Such a short ambush can't possibly cause any damage. How did they get in? They just attacked us, and now they're leaving? They even got the Radiant Phoenix Doluo Yang Shaojia to cover their retreat. This is unbelievable. If they're trading the Masquerade Doluo for the Radiant Phoenix Doluo, it's definitely not worth it. The Radiant Phoenix Doluo is the heir to the Master of the Sea God's Pavilion. If not for the fact that Elder Mu died too early, Elder Xian wouldn't have become the Master at all. Yang Shaojia would have been the next Master of the Sea God's Pavilion. After pondering for a moment, Zhongli Wu finally had a clue. No matter what was happening, he had to do his best to kill Yang Shaojia. As long as Yang Shaojia died, the losses they had suffered this time would be worth it. The flames grew weaker and weaker. Just like Zhongli Wu had judged, even a transcendent Doluo couldn't last long maintaining such a strong attack. Yang Shaojia. A cold and sinister voice rang across the sky. Even the flames retracted slightly as they were suppressed. Before the flames were completely extinguished, Zhongli Wu snorted, and his back started to shine with purple light. He turned into an elderly, purplish figure, which pointed in Yang Shaojia's direction. Zhongli Wu's 8th soul ring flashed with light. A streak of purplish light as thin as a needle instantly swept across the sky. Wherever that streak of purplish light passed, even the flames were instantly pierced. Yang Shaojia groaned in the air. Zhongli Wu flashed away, and he finally broke free from the flames, which were also extinguished at this moment. Yang Shaojia regained his human form and landed on the ground, staggering a little. There was a ball of purplish flame burning on his chest. He struggled to support himself. The 6 consecrated had already quickly surrounded him. 2 were in the sky and 4 were on the ground, trapping him. Zhongli Wu was in front of him. This was a trap even a transcendent Doluo like him couldn't break free from. Yang Shaojia, where do you think you're escaping to? Zhongli Wu cursed coldly. Yang Shaojia smiled. Why should I run? Since I chose to stay, I have no intention of leaving. You've been thinking too much. Oh! Zhongli Wu was stunned. He hadn't expected Yang Shaojia to be so composed, even though he was encircled and had been struck by his 8th soul skill, the Godly Death Needle. The Godly Death Needle looked as thin as a strand of hair, but it was so strong that it could pierce through a mountain. It was specifically used to overcome all types of protective soul skills. Among all the current soul skills that Zhongli Wu knew about, none of them could resist his Godly Death Needle. To avoid being hurt, one could only try to avoid it. However, the Godly Death Needle could lock onto its targets, and wasn't that easy to avoid. The purplish flame on Yang Shaojia's chest came from the Godly Death Needle. He was using the strength of his phoenix flames to resist the Godly Death Needle. Zhongli Wu wasn't bothered by the fact at all. If his Godly Death Needle were so easy to deal with, it wouldn't be fit to be his 8th soul skill. When this needle entered any biological entity, it would spark a kind of flame called the Withering Flame. No matter what the elemental type of a soul power was, it would be destroyed under the Withering Flame. It was like a soul master burning his soul power and spiritual sea. This Withering Flame expedited the combustion of one's soul power and spiritual sea, and the soul master couldn't possibly extinguish the flame. During the process of combustion, no overwhelming fighting strength was unleashed. Instead, the Soul Master would slowly experience a decline. Zhongli Wu glanced around at the others from the Holy Ghost Church and said coldly, "Do you really think you're going to get lucky?" He looked extremely grim. Not many of the people from the Holy Ghost Church could stand up. The third and fourth elders appeared to be critically hurt, and struggled to crawl to their feet. Nangong Wan even acted like he couldn't get up. Worse, the blue-silver Holy Lady was nowhere to be seen. Zhongli Wu was now intent on exacting revenge. This last thing infuriated him like nothing else. It was important to know that the blue-silver Holy Lady and the Phoenix Holy Lady were the successors that he had nurtured. The Phoenix Holy Lady was still receiving treatment at the Holy Ghost Church's headquarters because of the evil fire in her body. On the other hand, things were going very smoothly with the blue-silver Holy Lady. According to the current situation, her mind would be completely purified, and she would completely lose her sense of self. They were known as successors not because they would rule the Holy Ghost Church in the future, but because they would become some of the strongest individuals in the church. Zhongli Wu was very aware that his mother and Long Xiaoyaro were already very old. It was difficult to tell how much longer they could live. How could an evil soul master sect like the Holy Ghost Church remain powerful without any ultimate doluor? If the two of them died, everyone was bound to gang up on them. The Holy Ghost Church had a secret method that could stimulate a soul master's abilities, allowing their followers to grow rapidly. However, there was a negative side to this secret method. It completely corroded a person's mind, and they would believe that they were just killing machines. With such a secret method, an extremely talented soul master could be gradually improved, and could possibly become an ultimate doluor. However, the soul master had to be introspective, his body had to be pure enough, and his martial soul had to be appropriate. Tang Ya and Ma Xiaodao were candidates that he had found suitable. Comparatively speaking, Ma Xiaodao was much more talented. After her phoenix flames fused with the evil fire, it would evolve into ultimate fire. Once she became an ultimate doluor, she would be an ultimate fire doluor. She would be even stronger than Yi Shishure and Long Xiaoyao. However, Ma Xiaodao wasn't very compatible with the secret method, exactly because she was too talented, and her flames were too domineering. It was very difficult to corrode her mind. Although there was some effect, her mind wasn't greatly affected, even after all this time. Although Tang Ya wasn't as talented as Ma Xiaodao, she was much more compatible with the secret method. After she consumed the medicine, her mind had been completely devoured by the evil poison. Her cultivation had increased greatly. In terms of rank, she was almost at Ma Xiaotao's standard. Once Tang Ya became a titled doluor, the secret method would be completed. When that happened, only some special articles would be needed to help keep her under control. In the future, she was bound to become the Holy Ghost Church's biggest trump card. When Yi Shishire and Long Xiaoyaro were no longer around, Tang Ya would be present to ensure that the Holy Ghost Church could last another 100 years without falling. Because of how important she was, Zhongli Wu had kept the Scorpion Tiger Doluor with her to protect her. However, Tang Ya had disappeared. It was important to know that the Holy Ghost Church had used a lot of resources on Tang Ya. After all, Zhongli Wu wasn't just nurturing an extremely powerful ultimate doluor. He also had to ensure that she would enjoy great longevity after she became an ultimate doluor. It was the only way he could maximize the benefits to the sect. Tang Ya's disappearance was even more heartbreaking than the Masquerade Doluor's death. He was so furious now that he wanted to completely annihilate Shrek Academy right now. Yang Shaozhe, where did you take the blue-silver holy lady? Zhongli Wu asked coldly. Yang Shaozhe smiled and said, "What blue-silver holy lady? I don't know who you're talking about." Zhongli Wu snorted furiously. "You're already here. Why are you still acting? Do you really think I won't dare to kill you? No, that would be too easy on you. I'll make you my puppet, a puppet that's a transcendent doluor. Our soul will never reincarnate." After hearing his threats, Yang Shaozhe was still smiling, and appeared very composed. "Zhongli Wu, you think too much. Quickly, go and save those who are hurt. I won't play with you anymore. Bye." As he spoke, Yang Shaozhe suddenly burned with golden flames. Even the purple flames on his chest were devoured by these golden flames. Then, he slowly disappeared into the fires. This video will end here.